Alisa is an old-school survival horror game, created and published by indie developer Casper Crows, and released for PC in October of 2021. The game was first announced as a Kickstarter project, with Casper requiring €20,000 in order to see his vision come to life. Thankfully, the Kickstarter ended up being a success, although many of the stretch goals were not met unfortunately. Alisa was developed almost entirely by Casper himself, with the music being composed by his girlfriend, who also happens to be the voice actress for Alisa. I've played dozens of survival horror games in my time, but I don't think I've ever played one with as much passion poured into it as Alisa. You can tell Casper absolutely adores the survival horror genre, because he just gets what made games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill so special. That said, the game still isn't perfect and might not appeal to people who aren't huge fans of the genre, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Alright, listen up. Tonight, a spy stole important blueprints.
Alisa is set in a fictional land that does not have a name as far as I can tell. We play as Alisa, a young woman and member of an organisation called the Elite Royal Agent. Alisa and her companion are tasked with finding a man who stole some blueprints from the organisation, and so they set out by train to find him. While I hate starting this review off on a negative point, Alicia's story is one of its worst aspects. Nothing is explained, character development is non-existent, and the writing just feels clumsy and awkward.
Who are you? What is this place?
My name is Bo, and this is a dollhouse.
The dollhouse? No, really? What's going on here? And why am I wearing this dress?
Yes. Well, can't help you with that.
So little of this world is explained to the player. I mean, who are the Elite Royal Agent? What is their job role exactly? Who is Alisa and why did she choose to work for this organisation? What is so important about those blueprints and why should I give a fuck about finding them? If you were hoping to get answers to any of these questions, well, in the immortal words of Grimbeard,
go fuck yourself.
So yeah, I have a lot of issues with Alicia's story, but to be fair, I have issues with most horror stories. You know, I highly doubt a woman this good looking would actually fuck Frankenstein in real life. Anyways, now that I never have to mention this game's story again for the rest of my life, I can finally move on to talking about the game itself. As mentioned previously, Alisa is an old school survival horror game, akin to something like the original Resident Evil. The game features old PS1 era graphics that just charmed the pants off of me instantly. If you didn't grow up during the PS1 era, there is a good chance you won't see the appeal in visuals like this, but personally I can't get enough of these graphics. The game begins in a quaint countryside where Alisa is in no real danger of dying. This gives the player some time to become accustomed to a control scheme that would be considered rather archaic by today's standards. Video games that use tank controls are almost non-existent today, mainly due to most third-person games having the camera situated behind the player's back at all times. This is no bad thing, of course. These newer games are objectively easier to control than something like the original Silent Hill, but tank controls really are the only option when it comes to being able to adequately play games that have pre-rendered backgrounds or fixed camera angles. Alicia's controls are unquestionably going to be off-putting for a lot of players, but I urge those people to stick with them, because once the game's control scheme finally clicks with you, controlling Alisa will become second nature in no time. So as I was saying, Alisa and her companion are exploring the beautiful countryside looking for the fugitive when they come across a small village. You knock on one of the houses and a man invites you inside for a quick chat. This scene doesn't really add much to the overall narrative and didn't really have to be included in the game at all, but I still appreciated it being here. Alisa is a very cozy game, and moments like this just add to that feeling. The man witnessed the criminal running down a nearby road, so Alisa takes off after him.
Over there! It's him! Halt! Stop right there.
Wait, let's get him.
Unfortunately, along the way, your companion swallows his toothpick and can't go with you any further.
Jan, what are you doing?
I swallowed my cure-dent.
Are you okay?
Go, Alisa. Don't let him s'échapper.
Here, use the rat signal in my back.
Here are the nominees for Best Performance.
Best performance.
We were meant for this, Nathan. We were destined for something great.
Jan, what are you doing?
I swallowed my cure-dent.
And the Game Award goes to...
I swallowed my cure-dent. I swallowed my cure-dent.
I know that last part wasn't that funny, but that's no reason to unsubscribe, buddy. I know you're thinking of clicking unsubscribe, but if you do that, I'll seriously fucking die. Anyways, just as Alisa is gaining on the criminal, he seemingly disappears into thin air, and Alisa encounters something she was not expecting.
Where did he go? What's going on? What kind of monsters?
While you have control over Alisa during this scene, you are still going to get your head caved in no matter what, so there's no real point in fighting back. Eventually, Alisa succumbs to the monsters and they pull her underground. We then get her title card. Pretty cool opening, all things considered. Alisa eventually comes to and finds herself in a strange room and an even stranger dress. Your first task is to find a way out of this room. A bedside locker nearby contains a gun and the key you will need to exit the room. In the next room, you are presented with a scene that will be instantly recognizable to anyone who has played the original Resident Evil before.
Excuse me.
Yes, there is no denying that Resident Evil 1 was the core inspiration for Alisa. The references are everywhere, from the level design, to the puzzles, and even some of the dialogue.
I was almost a sandwich.
Unfortunately, while Alisa carries over a lot of what was great about the original Resident Evil, it also carries over a lot of what didn't work too, like its aiming system for example. So for whatever reason, Alisa will not lock on to any targets she aims at. It's manual aiming all the way, baby. Which means you are going to end up missing plenty of shots because you were sure you were aiming at an enemy, but you were really aiming at the stairs instead. To compensate for this, Casper has added an aiming reticule that lights up when you are pointing at an enemy. This feature definitely helps, but I'm gonna be honest, the game should have an option that allows you to enable auto-aim, especially because some of the faster enemies are a complete fucking nightmare to kill without it. Anyways, once you dispose of the first zombie doll, you will notice that enemies in this game drop strange cog-like items when they die. These are called tooth wheels, and they function as the game's currency. Tooth wheels allow you to buy items from a shop run by an adorable puppet named Poe. Aww, he's so cute. Reminds me of the puppet I used to have. Yeah, what did you want to show me? What? That's Disneyland. Why are you showing me this? What the fuck? Kill them all. What? I can't kill them. There's kids. Kill them all. No, I won't. You can't make me, not again. Oh, why do I even try? You know I can't resist you. Pole's shop is where you'll find a variety of weapons and items to purchase. You can even buy ammo, which is unusual to see in a survival horror game, but it makes sense here, since finding ammo pickups in the house is a surprisingly rare occurrence. You can also buy different dresses for Alisa, which are much more than simple cosmetic items. Each dress comes with a variety of different stat boosts. For example, the military uniform dress gives you a 10% defense increase, as well as the ability to reload your weapons faster. There is even a dress that allows you to swim faster in water, and it is pretty much a mandatory purchase if you are planning to finish the game. My advice is to save your tooth wheels and buy the military uniform as soon as possible. It will make the first few hours of the game a lot easier. Initially, I thought Alisa was going to simply rip off the entire mansion from the original Resident Evil, instead of creating its own unique environments. Thankfully, I couldn't have been more wrong. Alicia's level design is outstanding, and some of the best I have ever seen from the genre. Every room is well designed and fun to explore. More importantly, you are never stuck in the same looking location for too long. For example, the beginning of the game may take place in an ordinary looking house, but it isn't long before you find yourself in more surreal locations, like a circus filled with disturbing monsters, or an underwater palace crawling with weird, alien-like creatures. And the craziest thing is that it all works. No area feels out of place in Alisa. They all fit perfectly within this game's fantastically strange world. Enemy designs are also quite unique and unlike anything else seen in the genre. Most of the enemies are creepy, doll-like creatures who move about in a disturbingly unnatural way. While I wouldn't consider Alisa a scary game per se, it did manage to unnerve me on a few occasions. I mean, a cute clown waddling towards you so it can beat you to death with a baseball bat is terrifying enough when it happens in real life, so obviously shit like this is going to get a reaction out of me. There are also some fucked jump scares that But in my opinion, the horror in Alisa is never more effective than when it's trying to get under your skin. I just wish there were more moments like this. Puzzle solving is obviously a staple of any good survival horror game, and thankfully, Alicia's puzzles are one of the game's strongest aspects. They are all incredibly well designed, difficult enough that you may find yourself getting stuck from time to time, but never so difficult that you'll want to give up and look up the solution online. They are some of the best designed puzzles I have ever encountered in a survival horror game, which is good because there's a surprising amount of them. All in, I think there's a good 20 to 30 logic puzzles littered throughout the game, and yet they never became tiresome. I'm only showing a small handful of the puzzles in this video because I don't want to spoil any of the more interesting ones from the second half of the game. Boss fights are unfortunately a mixed bag in Alisa. Some of them are well designed and fun to fight, but due to the game's dated control scheme, some of them are a complete nightmare. The first boss fight pissed me off so much during my first playthrough that I almost stopped playing the game entirely. You need to avoid this guy's contraptions or you'll take a serious amount of damage and be knocked on your ass, unable to move. But since you can't move while aiming, it's almost impossible to get more than a single shot off without taking damage. I'm very surprised that a boss fight as broken as this made it into a game that's otherwise very well designed. Thankfully, this is the only boss fight like this, and the other boss fights fare far better, although some of them are still frustrating due to there not being an auto-aim feature. My first playthrough of Alisa took nearly 5.5 hours to complete, which is pretty lengthy for an indie game that only costs €15. However, the second playthrough I did for this video took less than half that time, so your mileage may vary. I found the game to be surprisingly replayable though, especially if you find enjoyment from speedrunning your favourite games. I usually don't bother trying to speedrun games, but I couldn't help myself with Alisa. The game is just so much fun to play. So overall, I love this game. It definitely has its issues and will feel unbearably outdated to some people, but if you grew up during the golden age for the survival horror genre, I can't see how you could possibly dislike this game. It has fantastic level design, brilliant puzzles, and engaging gameplay. The game is also suitable for all ages in my opinion, since there is no gore or bad language. So if you want to introduce your kids to the survival horror genre, but don't want to expose them to obscene levels of violence, this is a great game to do so with. I can't say enough good things about Alisa, and I will be supporting Casper's next project day one. Oh fuck. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I just wanted to quickly mention that if you're going to play Alisa, please remember to use a controller. It will make your life so much easier. Anyways, thanks guys. I'll see you soon.